This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app. Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are proud to bring you Justice Unfiltered. Real conversations with real people from every side of the justice system. From the latest in law and order to the voices of those impacted, changed, and working to make a difference. This is where truth meets transformation. Now, it's time for Justice Unfiltered, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome to Justice Unfiltered with Daniel Matalon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Cowart, and our guest today, Holly Waltman. She is a criminal defense attorney. We'll learn more about her as the show goes on. Daniel, how you doing?
Doing well.
Dude, it doesn't sound like it sounds like there's been a little chaos behind the scenes. I'm glad you're pulling it together.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Absolutely. Good. Been traveling a whole bunch still, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Been on the move.
Yeah. I know that feeling well.
Now.
Yeah, there you go. Home for a few days, hopefully. And Holly, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so how long have y'all known one another?
It's been years,
at least
many
a decade.
years. Yeah, it's definitely been at least a decade, for sure.
Yeah, I've known Daniel now for a couple years, 2 or 3 years, and terrific guy. And we've been able to do some cool events together and see some things up close together. And I assume that y'all have that same kind of relationship because this guy knows everybody. This guy could be the mayor, really.
No,
I'm not saying
I think he is the unofficial mayor.
I'm not the unofficial mayor.
I don't know that he wants to be the mayor, but as many people as he knows and how well connected he is around the city of Atlanta, around the country for that matter, he could definitely be the mayor. But I'll introduce you to Holly now. Holly is the owner and managing partner of Waltman Firm, LLC, criminal defense, personal injury, Marietta, founded in 2015, born and raised in Cobb County. There's very few of those around these days.
So raised in Cobb County, not born in Cobb County.
Oh, where were you born?
Colorado Springs.
Okay. So
military brat.
But you know what? That gets a pass for me.
Yeah,
as a guy that served in the Navy,
that
gets a pass because I know so many people that were that were moved around a lot, and that's just part of the military, especially a military dependent. That's just the way it works. But raised in Cobb County, so I'm one of the very few born and raised.
Wow.
Here in Georgia. So Metro Atlanta. Once you get outside of 285, it's a little more common. But founded the firm in 2015. Passion for criminal law, assistant conflict defender for the Stone Mountain Judicial Circuit. What in the world does that mean?
Yeah. So I started in my third year of law school in DeKalb County. I was at the district attorney's office. Shortly after graduating, I decided to flip sides, go on the other side. A conflict defender typically handles conflict cases for a public defender. So, for example, if the three of us decided we were going to go do something nefarious, which we wouldn't, but if we did...
I might.
Okay.
I can't.
Well, if you decide to do it with Daniel or somebody else...
that could be me.
And then we all three needed a public defender, the same office is not going to be able to represent all of us because I might try and point the finger at him saying he's the mastermind.
I definitely would.
Right. So we're going to need our own counsel. A conflict defender would come in when a public defender is not able to represent an individual because of a conflict.
Where do you think that passion for defense came from, though? I mean, did you see something as a child? Did you read great books about it? Is it just your educational background? Where does it all come from?
So I wish I had some long-winded story about everyone in my family is an attorney, and I just knew I was destined to do that. That is not at all my case or my story. I finished undergrad with a philosophy degree and an economics degree, and I just was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and thought the world was just ready to hand me a six-figure job and career.
Like every kid coming out of college.
I knew it all, guys. I really did. And then I started working my butt off at an employment law firm. My job was to put the labels on the files. That was my job. I was a file clerk. And I did that for about a year, and then I realized, hey, this kind of looks better from that side of the table than where I'm sitting. And so I started studying for the LSAT, and I got in, and I went to law school and said what, a lot of people say, I don't ever want to be in a courtroom, and I don't want to deal with criminal cases because they are just out there, right? And I think somewhere along that, God laughed at me and said, okay. And it was a professor in particular. And
okay, so there maybe is a little bit of that.
Yeah, there was. I finished my first year of law school saying those very same things. I don't want to be in a courtroom, and I don't want to deal with criminal law. And then I took a summer class of criminal law, and it was just instant. I was like, wow, this is cool. This is interesting to me. A lot better than just pushing paper, right?
Well,
you're able to help people on an intimate level at their worst moment. Or on the flip side, I've also been a part-time prosecutor. You're able to give someone a second chance because you're holding the cards. And so I really, really enjoy either side. But it's kind of by happen chance that I got here, I guess. I never. It's everything I never knew I wanted to do.
Good Lord's got a plan for us all, it seems.
There it is.
I really do believe that. I mean, I talk about it a lot on our show. Just, I never in a million years thought I'd do a news show.
Right.
Ever. I work country radio, obviously, for 20 plus years, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to do this news program and talk about the stories of the day, the politics behind it. Sometimes heavy conversations, sometimes it's funny conversations, but never in a million years did I expect to do it. So I kind of can see where you come from. Like, it's not exactly what I thought, but then now that I'm here, it's an interesting path to follow that I never expected.
And I couldn't imagine doing anything different than what I do, right? To go to law school, to get to help people, to have a law degree that gives me so much ability to impact people's lives far beyond just the cases that I represent them in. And then, of course, I added a twist of I'm going to open a business and now be an entrepreneur.
Watch me.
Another thing I never really knew how to do or thought I would be doing. But again, when it's great, it's my fault. And when it's not, it's my fault.
Right.
And I kind of like it that way, right? Because I can rely on myself,
Sure.
and I know I can make that happen.
And who do you trust more than you?
Correct.
Yeah, because
right.
I
no one.
Yeah, right.
Maybe my mother.
Yeah, right.
Mom's on that list.
But there are very few people that,
Yes.
and we've learned that. And Daniel, that's kind of the path that you're on too, right? Giving people a second chance. The whole name of your company.
All about second chances. Yes.
And I think everybody deserves a second chance.
Everyone does.
And I know in my life I've had to ask for a few second chances. I mean, I've never broken the law per se besides speeding.
So yeah.
But even if it's just with my wife or my son or whomever, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I snapped at you, or I was short with you. And I know that's very different than what y'all do. But when you boil it down, it's all about the second chance. Holly is licensed to practice law in all 159 counties. Welcome to Georgia, because we got a bunch of them. Sworn in at the Court of Appeals at the Supreme Court of Georgia, handles federal cases across the nation. That's big time. Federal cases?
Federal cases, yes. I do enjoy the federal cases.
Is it intimidating? Because it seems like it would be, especially going against the federal government, or I guess going against, trying a case against, right?
It be? Absolutely. Just like anything in life. There's certain judges that you walk in and there's a level of intensity. There's some judges that you walk in and it feels more like a conversation, right? Like a status calendar. The federal system is a completely different monster than the state court system. Different rules, different procedures, different timelines of how long you can expect a case to take to develop through the courts. And I do enjoy the federal cases.
I just imagine, Daniel, at least in my own head, that the federal government has this endless resources. So everything you do, they're like, oh, I got 10 more of those.
I know they have really nice courtrooms. I can tell you that.
That's exactly right.
I've seen the courtrooms.
but that's the thing that I think that would be intimidating for me is, and I'm amazed, at people that aren't intimidated by it. Endless resources. Everything you do, they can do 10 times more, and you still have to get in there and throw the punches.
Yeah, absolutely. But no matter what type of resources they have, we on the defense side have this beautiful thing called a demand for a jury trial. So we can cut through the government and just get regular folks on a jury who are going to see that the government is all-powerful, almighty, and is willing to do anything to try and take somebody's liberty. Once you can flex that and say, you know what, I don't have to agree with the prosecutor, I don't have to agree with the judge, I can get this jury to like me and then therefore believe our side of the story and our facts, our events, how we believe they happened.
Goodness, man. And I know, obviously, you probably have been part of federal cases, from bonding.
Not as much anymore.
No?
So,
Okay.
No. So back when I got started in this, way more federal cases as far as bonds, but now they've moved to kind of their own system. But we still do them. Yeah, I mean, I'm still involved with a lot of different federal cases, but it's just not as many as they used to be.
Yeah, I know a lot of big names though, and then I guess those weren't federal. I was just thinking of some of the people that you've had to bond out. I mean, the past 5-6 years.
Yeah, you get a lot of like white collar, like a lot of stuff like that happens, and I mean it's everything, but I mean like that's more of the stuff that I see on the bond side.
Yeah, and for you, Holly, understanding the prosecution's mindset. Probably you anticipate, even at the federal level, what's coming at you.
Yeah, and it's also important to have relationships, right? Like you can know
Most
everything.
important.
The most important. You can know everything there is to know about the law or your case or the facts surrounding what they've accused your client of doing. Really what gets you further is a good relationship with a prosecutor, and you get that by being trustworthy, not being sneaky, holding a level of professionalism. Despite the fact that I'm on the opposite side and we see this situation very differently, we can take the gloves off and duke it out in court and then still be friendly and civil to each other afterwards.
Which is unusual. Outside of what you're describing. I mean, because you think about the politicians, they're never on the up and up with each other. They're always tearing each other apart. And sometimes the things that they're bickering about aren't as immediate and gosh, if you're the person that's going to get locked up or sent away to jail, probably not as scary as the situation that they find themselves in.
Right. I think the saying is civil attorneys treat each other criminally and criminal attorneys treat each other civilly.
Okay.
And that's kind of a mantra that I try and use no matter if I'm in federal court or state court.
I love it. When we come back, a Fourth Amendment expert. Substantial expertise in criminal drug cases, federal civil asset forfeiture, juvenile law, major complex felony cases. We talk about some of that, how you became an expert. I never been called an expert at anything, and with good reason. I mean, I might, you might. I mean, if you ask me about country music, I could probably tell you who won the Entertainer of the Year award in 1977. I could probably. Maybe you could call me an expert in that, but very few other things. So Fourth Amendment sounds big time. We are talking to Holly Waltman. She is a criminal defense attorney and managing partner of the Waltman Firm.
Waltman.
Or did I say okay? And managing partner of the Waltman Firm that is located here in Marietta. We'll talk more about the Fourth Amendment next on Justice Unfiltered on Extra 106.3.
This is Justice Unfiltered, presented by A Second Chance Bail Bonds on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
Welcome back to Justice Unfiltered on Extra 106.3 with Daniel Matalon, the CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring, as well as Holly Waltman, and she is the managing partner of the Waltman Firm in Marietta, co-founded in 2015. I was reading that you are a Fourth Amendment expert. Why become a Fourth Amendment expert? Like, what was it? I don't feel like that's one of the things you wake up one morning. It's like, you know what? It's that Fourth Amendment. That's the one I'm most interested in.
I think it's an underappreciated amendment. It is your right, your constitutionally promised right to be left alone from unreasonable searches and seizures. And the key word there is unreasonable searches and seizures. It is the right to be left alone in the privacy of our homes and our cars with details from the government being able to just come and take it and look at it and unfairly invade your privacy. So is it as important as the First Amendment? No, because we couldn't sit here and talk about it if we didn't have the first one. But it is one that I think is paramount to the type of law that I do and that I practice, right? The right to be left alone from the government.
I think that's me in a nutshell right there. Now that you said it like that, I just want to be left alone. I think that's what most people do. I don't know about you, but I think that's what most people.
Yeah, most people stay out of the way.
Yeah,
and don't really know what's totally going on with a lot of this.
Probably
stuff.
for good reason.
If it's not in your daily life, why would you? I mean, honestly.
But I just mean people just want to be left alone. Like when it comes to the day in day out life of whatever the government's doing, right? Leave me alone. Let me go to work. Let me earn a living. Let me keep as much of my living that I have earned as much as I can. I just want to be left alone. I think that's where most people live. And the fact that your clients know that you're well-versed in this, I can only imagine for them, that's like a sigh of relief. Wait a minute. I've got the person that knows it so much so that they call her an expert, that's who I want to go sit down with.
Well, I would hope so. Sadly, I think sometimes people find themselves needing my help when it's after the fact, and they have already,
of course,
waived their Fourth Amendment and given up information or allowed by consent to be searched. That doesn't mean all is lost. That doesn't mean that search is going to end up being a good search. And that is where someone like myself or a prosecutor looks at something and says, okay, we think that this now violated his or her Fourth Amendment right, or they weren't adequately aware of what right they had to say no to a test, to a conversation, to a statement about the crime that's being investigated. So hopefully my clients feel good about that. I would like to scream from the mountaintops, no one has to give over information, right? Because if the government's going to come and take that information, they're going to go get a warrant and do it. And that's the way it should be done, because then you have a safeguard of a judge looking through what that officer claims is his or her probable cause to get to the search.
If you could give a real world scenario for people listening, and I mean, nobody wants to be in this situation, but they get pulled over and, pick up the things that you can say no to, because I don't know that I know what I can say yes or no to.
Certainly. So in the situation you're talking about, blue lights are behind you, you pull over, an officer's going to come up to the window and start asking you to identify yourself. You do have to identify yourself, right? You're going to get more problems than
because
it's worth.
Lately I've seen a lot of people, it's just popped up on social media, I don't know how much of it's real or not, but people won't roll down their window, right, and then all of a sudden the window's getting broken out.
Correct. So a few things you have to do. You have to identify yourself. If you're operating a motor vehicle, you're going to have to hand over your license, show this officer that you have the requisite things to operate a motor vehicle in Georgia. What you don't have to do is answer questions. Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Who were you with? How much have you had to drink?
What do you say, though, when they ask you those
Respectfully, sir, I'm not going to answer any questions.
Okay.
And then here's the big one. This is my favorite one. You can flip that back over, and you start asking the questions. Officer, am I free to leave or am I under arrest? Make that person decide right then, do I have probable cause enough that I can articulate it to hold you and say, no, sir, you can't leave. You're not free to go. You're putting it back on them, because then they've got to say, okay, well, I decided to detain Daniel, or I decided to detain Holly because I'm investigating something. Now all sort of reasonableness about the time length that they can hold you there comes
rules come into play.
Absolutely. But if you say, oh, well, I just left dinner at the movie theater and I had a bottle of wine with my husband, that is just going to perpetuate the questions that they're going to be asking you. How long ago did you have that wine? Can you go ahead and step out so I can test your eyes and make sure that you're a safe driver? It then snowballs, and all you're doing is handing over information for their investigation.
So first thing, respectfully, I don't want to answer
Respectfully,
this question.
I'm not going to answer anything.
What could happen when you do that?
Okay, so one of two things is going to happen. What I hope is going to happen is the officer is going to say, well, I don't know where he came from. I don't have anything else to hold him here. So now I've got to make the decision to go ahead and hand back over the license, maybe write the ticket for the speeding or the blinker or whatever it was, and let them go.
Because it seems like you would have to be brave in the moment to do that. It makes me have short of breath just thinking about doing that, Daniel.
Well, and people get nervous when they see police officers, even if they're not doing anything wrong.
Yes, you're exactly right.
Even I do. Even I do. I mean, I'm around it all the time.
Know it.
And have been for,
you know it inside and out.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It feels like it takes a really brave person to do what you just said to do, because you said it and it's the truth. And you know that's the right thing, but sometimes the right thing can be hard to do.
Correct. And these officers have gone to training. They know how to ask questions in a way that's going to try and pull the answers out. They've been trained to do it this way. So if you can stick to the script, identify yourself, do not answer any questions, and if you can answer his or her question with a question, you're going to put yourself in a better position to go home or just get your ticket, right? The other way that scenario works out is you say, respectfully, I'm not going to answer any questions. And if the officer believes that they already have probable cause, there's nothing you're going to say to unprobable cause.
That's going to stop it.
You're already going to jail at that point. So stop, don't give any more information, and ask for an attorney.
What happens if, because you say I'm not going to answer any more questions, what happens if they say, I need to search your car? Can you just say no?
I do not consent to a search of my vehicle.
And then, is there at any point that they can say, okay, where are you going to jail then?
Sure. And when you're going to jail, one of the ways that they can circumvent a warrant requirement to search your car is something that in Georgia law is called an inventory search. An inventory search was put into place to protect the person that owns the vehicle, right? Like, let's say I'm driving my car and I've got my wedding ring in here and I've got all this valuable stuff. I've got my iPhones in here. Well, they're going to say, well, Holly's going to jail today and we're going to just search so that we can make sure that everything that's in there is accounted for.
That she gets all her stuff back.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, during that search, incident to that search, they find something illegal or they find something I'm not supposed to have. There's additional charges. So if they're going to arrest you, they're going to search your car either way. Don't consent to it, because if you consent to it, if their search is illegal or bad, we have a harder time on the defense side challenging that with a judge.
Goodness.
If we have a no consent search, my client said, no, sir, no, ma'am, you may not search my vehicle. They do it, and then they don't do it the right way. There's
then
the ground. There's my Fourth Amendment ground to try and do a motion to suppress, to kick out the evidence that they found, the weed, the drugs, the guns, whatever it was.
Give me the story of the person that did it right, that was brave enough to say, answer just like you did, and it worked out the way it's supposed to.
Well, the good news is we don't get those stories because those people aren't arrested.
That's it. Okay, perfect. So then let's flip the script. Somebody recently that didn't do it the right way, and you had to work overtime to make sure that they got their due. Everything worked out the way it's supposed to in the justice system.
Yeah, and look, sometimes I'm handed facts that are bad against laws that are written harshly against my clients, and there isn't much to do besides mediate the situation and try and mitigate the consequences. That is a posture of certain cases that kind of what you're making me think of, where it just didn't go right. Yeah. And for example, you're in a situation, officer comes up and starts asking you questions. Where you been? Where you coming from? Have you seen an individual in a green hoodie walking around here? Those sort of things. You're gonna be inclined to try and answer and cooperate because that's what we've always been told, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Respect police.
That's why I said you got to be. You're afraid to do the things that you've said need to be done.
But oftentimes, for example, in a roadblock situation, you don't know what an officer is actually investigating. You don't know if they're looking for a Caucasian man in a red hoodie, right? And now you fit the bill for something else that you may or may not be involved in. And so it's always safer to just politely decline to answer any questions, ask for an attorney, and never consent to a search.
Holly, what about the naysayers that are saying, oh, man, you're just picking this thing apart. You're just trying to help the bad guys. What do you say to that? Because I can see why people would say it. Hey, you got something in there. I'm not going to, I'm not going to incriminate myself, which is completely legal. You never want to incriminate yourself. But that's what the naysayers are going to say, right?
So what I say to them is, God forbid someone that they love or someone who is their family member ends up in a position like this. My clients are not bad people. My clients sometimes make bad decisions. Right,
which
or make mistakes.
Everybody has done.
Correct.
Everybody, including me. Every day I make bad choices.
And a lot of the people, and Daniel, I know you probably feel the same way, a lot of the people that we help and work with, they're not bad individuals. They've got mental health issues or they've got substance abuse issues.
Yeah, it's just life. It's life.
It's real life.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's
I think it's more clear today than maybe it ever has been before. The severity or the level of mental health issues, the severity levels of drug use, drug abuse, and sometimes those go hand in hand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the awareness is definitely up, but I mean, obviously more awareness, right? I mean, you want to keep, pushing.
It's awareness and it's also resources, right? We are, I think, ill-equipped as a society to deal with these sort of big, huge issues for people that don't have a lot of spare money, right?
Yeah, a lot of resources.
Treatment is expensive.
Yeah. Shoot, yeah, it is.
Drug addiction is expensive, and sometimes if you're not getting the right mental health treatment, you're self-medicating with drugs to try and alleviate how mentally you feel.
That's right.
So, to the people that think that I represent guilty folks and then horrible, calculated criminals, no, I represent aunts, uncles, moms, dads, brothers, kids, that take a misstep, right? That make a mistake or find themselves in a wrong place at a wrong time. Those are the people I enjoy working for and working with. And quite frankly, a guilty person who comes in and is like, yep, I did what they said, and now we're just going to try and get the best resolution possible, that's actually easier, right?
Do you really run into that where people are like, yeah, I did it?
Sure. Sometimes.
Because it just seems rare.
Sometimes it's so glaringly obvious.
Well, okay.
I mean,
in that scenario,
like picking poison.
Right? No, I get what you're saying, but there's just so few people. I mean, you have to agree. There's so few people that are going to say, "Yeah, I did it." Right? But most people don't like admitting if they have done something. So it's a little surprising to me that you run across it as much as it sounds like you do.
I mean, it's not every client, right?
It's necessary sometimes.
But sometimes it's not even. Sometimes the conversation doesn't even need to happen, right?
Yeah,
I
right.
can look at them and say, "I'm not a magician.
Right,
I can't
Sam.
make things disappear. I can't look over here, look over here. I don't do that." But
I'm dancing,
right?
Trying to get the judge's attention away from what's going on.
But at cocktail parties and on the weekend, that's one of the biggest questions. How do you represent guilty people? Just fine. What really keeps me up at night is someone who's like, I did not do this.
Well, and wouldn't you say there's so much more to it? Like,
Right.
there's so many layers to the onion. At least what I've observed. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I know a lot of lawyers.
obviously,
it's just
you've
what
probably
I've
been around a
observed.
lot.
And yeah, there is way more to it. And listen, I'd much rather have a lawyer than not have a lawyer. So I can tell you that
without a doubt.
If
yeah.
it was me,
because there's very few, I think, that would be like, you know what, I'm going to represent myself today.
calling as many as I know.
You don't see that often because it's a bad idea,
Right.
and then when you do see it on the news at night, you're like, oh, that's why I don't do it right there, because
Correct.
they go down in a blaze of glory. It just it never works out.
And I think another thing that's important to note, especially for people listening that live in Georgia, most states define crimes in 3 categories: felonies, which we know, misdemeanors, less severe, and then traffic offenses. Georgia says, oh no, traffic offenses are misdemeanors. So if you get a ticket in Georgia for not using a blinker, not stopping long enough at a stop sign, running a red light, you're looking at up to 12 months in custody and or $1,000 fine.
For running a stop sign?
Correct. That's a possibility. Now, are you going to get that? No. But that's an example. People think, oh, it's just a DUI. I can go in and represent myself. I don't want to pay an attorney. No. A DUI, battery, slapping your wife, slapping your husband, same as a blinker in Georgia. Could be. The potential range of punishment can be. Now, look, are these judges handing out 12 months in custody for blinkers? No. But if you go in there and show your
and try to represent yourself and show up the courtroom or disrespect it,
it's on the table.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Now, I've never run a red light or a stop sign. I've never done any of those
Well, none
things.
of us up here have ever.
Ever, and would never. If anybody in law enforcement is listening to Justice Unfiltered here on Extra 106.3, I'm Tug, along with Holly Waltman of the Waltman Firm out of Marietta, and Daniel Matalon, the CEO of A Second Chance and Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. Let's talk about just getting prepared for what it is that you're doing, being able to handle being a lawyer in the courtroom. Do you think it's that background, when you talk about some of the things that you've done in the past that prepared you to be where you are right now?
Yes and no. A lot of it has been trial and error, right? I have found 20 different ways to run a business and made 50 different bad decisions, and only from those bad decisions did I correct and able to get the law firm back up and running and back up on track. I think it's my background in philosophy that sets me apart and makes me a little different, because I try and see problems, I'm putting that in air quote, or issues or challenges, not from my perspective, right? Because I know what I'm going to try and say. I know what I'm going to try and argue. I'm trying to see it from the judge's perspective or the prosecutor's perspective. Because instead of going in, and I think this is where a lot of criminal defense attorneys miss the mark. A lot of my colleagues will go in and they are just ready to rumble, right? They're just walking in like lit on fire. I think that there's a softer approach, right? Like, look, the gloves can come off, but that is so rare, right? I can get most of the way there by just making a prosecutor feel good about something.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Something that he or she wouldn't normally consider. But just, hey, if I'm going to ask for probation, or I'm going to ask for the case to be dismissed, or I'm going to ask for some sort of special consideration, what is going to make that person feel comfortable going to their boss and agreeing to it? Yeah. Now, so is that something you learn in law school? No, that's not official Code of Georgia, blah, 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 dash, blah, blah, blah. That, I think, is more relationship-based that is more persuasive to people just on a human level, right?
Yeah.
It's like I've seen these big calendar calls where we're all in there and there's 50 defense attorneys in the jury box. There's 1 or 2 prosecutors, and they're just boom, 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 just like attacking them. And I'm like, guys, okay, like we need to slow down and like really be careful in how we approach these people, because by the time they get to me, the answer's gonna be no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because they're already
they're
mad
fed up.
at 20
they're
other
fed.
attorneys. So you got to get to court early. You got to get your name on the list first, or better yet, resolve your case or get the details the day before or the week before you're actually in court. I see so many attorneys, young attorneys and seasoned ones, that really are trying to litigate their entire case in a calendar where there's 250 cases. That's an easy no if I'm a prosecutor, right?
Yeah, I ain't got
like
time
if
for
it,
this.
I ain't got time for this. I've got 249 other cases. Like, are you ready for trial or not? That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
So taking the time to develop the relationships ahead of time, both with the judges and the prosecutor, I think is paramount to getting a great result for your client.
But getting to that point where you're talking about negotiating and whatever it is, that's kind of when you bring in Daniel too, I would imagine. Like we want to, I want my client to be able to be out and have monitoring instead of having to be in jail. Is that like the way it goes?
I work with defense lawyers all the time on alternatives to incarceration. Basically, is how I would classify that, right? So if they want to have them out on an alcohol monitor or whatever the case may be, regular GPS, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So going back to the relationship, hey, this is kind of what I would like for my client to be able to do, and that relationship would put you in a situation, be like, okay, we're willing to extend that, and that offer or that request.
Yeah, and that's completely right, and it really does make everyone feel a little bit more comfortable, especially in the beginning of a case when you're asking for the consideration of bond, right? So that you can be on the outside to prepare your defense and you're not in custody during the pendency of the case. It really goes far when I can look at a judge and say, hey, judge, by the way, I've already talked to a second chance. They are willing, able, ready, and we just got to do a phone call. It puts everyone at ease because all the judges know this company. They trust this company. There are certain bonding companies that certain jurisdictions aren't going to accept a bond from.
Wow.
And it comes down, again, to relationships and reputation. And luckily, having these guys in my pocket to help my clients, it's a great thing to do.
Yeah, and then on top of that, back to the preparation, you already look like, hey, this person is buttoned up. This person knows what they're doing, and I don't have to worry about them playing funny games or trying to pull something, pull the wool over my eyes. They've already contacted Daniel. This is a good scenario. Boom, done.
Right. And look, we get cases in every stage. So I get the case where it's, hey, I got a call from a detective and I think I might have charges coming down the line. I get calls that are like, hey, I'm on a jury trial calendar and I need new counsel for next week. So finding them where they are in the process also has a huge impact on the outcome, right? I would never recommend you wait until the week or two before a trial calendar to try and find an attorney. But those kind of things happen, right? People have disagreements with their counsel or feel like they're not being represented properly. God forbid, we had someone recently call the office and their attorney had died. And so they needed to
That's a tough day there.
Yeah, that's not good. No, look, judges are considerate and professional in those situations by and large. That is something that they're not going to hold against the defendant, right? Because it's just not their fault. But if you just haven't hired an attorney in 2.5 years and now all of a sudden you're asking for a continuance to find one, that's not going to go over as well. So
it seems like bad.
My
strategy.
recommendation is have an attorney, ask them the 3 big questions. Do you practice this kind of law? Do you practice in this jurisdiction? And how many types of my type of charge have you taken to a jury trial to completion?
How many people actually ask you that?
None.
See, that's the reason I asked that question is going back to, I think people should go back and maybe take some notes on this episode, especially about what to say when you get pulled over. I think that is so important. And I know you've made that case that it is important, but I don't think many people are going to do it. Go back and maybe make a note or two just so you're familiar. And when you're faced with it, if you're faced with it, God forbid you're faced with it, you have the right answers. And then calling the lawyer, asking those same questions.
And interviewing them, not just the
Yes.
first person that answers a phone, not the first person that, oh, my dad's family law attorney has a friend. Like, I would be very weary, especially in criminal cases, especially with complex felonies or serious charges like some of these cases that we're talking about. You need someone who is a subject matter expert, and you need it in that jurisdiction. Just because you work in Savannah or Chatham County and know that court system doesn't mean you're going to come up to Atlanta and do just as well.
Yeah, because you don't know the system
and you
in
don't
Atlanta.
Know the people.
You don't know the people. Back
Right.
to relationships. When we come back on Justice Unfiltered, I want to ask you, Holly, about the emotional struggle, because you see people in their worst moments. How do you take the emotion out of it so you are just effective? Because I would imagine emotions are high with the people in the courtroom, with the defendant, with the person you're defending, and then the fact that this could be something that changes their life forever, and they've got kids, they've got family, it's not just them. So how do you take the emotion out of that? We'll talk about that next here on Extra 106.3 and Justice Unfiltered with Daniel Matalon of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and Holly Waltman of the Waltman Law Firm here in Marietta. This is Extra 106.3.
Now back to Justice Unfiltered, presented by A Second Chance Bail Bonds on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
Welcome back to Justice Unfiltered, presented by A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring, along with Daniel Matalon, the CEO. I'm Tug Cowart. From the Waltman Law Firm, Holly Waltman is on the show today, and we've talked about so many things, the questions that you should ask. If you were to ever be pulled over, and the answers you should give if you're ever pulled over. The right answers, the right questions. If you missed any of it, go back into the last segment and listen to them there, because it is imperative that you know the answers to those questions, or the right questions to ask. My name is Tug Cowart. I want to get to just the emotional side of what you do, because it seems like it would be incredibly difficult to remove that, but you have to be effective. But first, Daniel said something funny in the break and talking about cutting corners. And there's all kinds of things you can cut corners in life, right? If you're going to go buy some AirPods, right, and you decide I'm going to buy the cheap pair off Amazon, they might not work just as well, but they'll probably fill the void. You can probably listen to the music you like in those earbuds. That's a place that you can cut the corner and maybe save yourself $1 or $2. When your freedom is on the line... Daniel, probably not a good time to start cutting corners.
Right. Number one, don't cut corners on your bondsman. That's number one.
That's right.
Okay, that's number one. But number two, with your lawyer. If it's me, I'm getting a lawyer, and I tell people, cut corners and see what happens. And I've watched, hundreds of people fall on their face. And it's not that it's funny. It's just that, like, hey, look, I mean, sometimes in life you get what you pay for, and not necessarily you have to pay for it, but seek out the legal advice. If you can.
No, you get what you pay for. I think that's dead on. I think
there's some of that sprinkled in there.
I think that's deadly accurate.
But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I had a colleague once say it's toilet paper, plastic surgery, and legal counsel. You don't cut corners on those three. Right. Yeah. You just need to go ahead and get the right one.
Bad result on all three of those.
Right. Detrimental to life.
That's a bad result.
To life. Yeah.
And especially with...
There are certain non-negotiables.
Yeah, that's right. I like the TP one. I'm glad that one got in there.
Yeah.
Dude,
gotta get in there.
It sounds like a small thing. Try some old cheap. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it becomes a big thing. Doesn't matter which end. Doesn't matter which, because like with the weather that's going on right now, you blow in your nose. Mm-hmm. The last thing you want is some old sandpaper, toilet paper. Oh, it's not terrible.
Not going to go well.
We laugh, we joke in the last about 4 minutes here. I want to talk about how you're able, Holly, to take some of the emotion out of what's happening in front of you, because it's obvious your client cannot.
Sure.
I would imagine. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are a few that can. But it just seems like what you have to do is take the emotion out of it. That way you do things the way they're supposed to be done. Do you ever find it hard to do that?
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, I'm human. These are humans. And while my client may not be able to take the emotion out, this affects their family. My client is not the only person that this is going to affect. Someone has had to pull money to hire us, or has had to take a second job because so-and-so lost their job. So how do I do it? Well, you got to have a lot of healthy habits, because you gather a bunch of not healthy habits, and that's also going to shorten your career.
Sure.
But it is talking with therapists, talking with a counselor myself. I mean, taking the heavy load of these individuals into my brain, into my heart, it's not something that you can absolutely do without emotion. And so it's finding those habits. I like to travel. I like to snow ski. I like to take time where I absolutely unplug. If you guys notice, I have 2 phones. Yeah. One is for my family, and I call it the bat phone. And then one is the law firm phone. Right. And when there's a certain time of day, I'm just done. I have to be.
Yeah,
right?
You
because
have to unplug.
Otherwise, I mean, these things don't happen conveniently Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, as you know.
Oh, yeah. They do
you
not.
mean people get in trouble after 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
I've thought they'd be
Super Bowl Sunday's coming up. That'll be a big one.
That's huge, yeah.
It's always around
ends.
long holidays where families have been together for extended periods of time.
Yep.
Holiday parties where people, get a little inebriated too much.
Or, Holly, a random Saturday night at dinner with your sweetheart.
Yep.
And both of you, one of you was supposed to drive, and both of you didn't abide by the agreement. I mean, it could be as simple as that, but it happens at 11:30 at night when you're home trying to just be with the family.
Now, I will say this. I have a call answering service.
Oh, sure.
You call us at that time, we will be calling you back as soon as we wake up, right? We have a way, and we have systems put in place to kind of insulate me and to insulate the staff a little bit from these overwhelming emotional situations. After a jury trial where I'm fighting for my client's life, there's definitely a week or two where I have to unplug, decompress, and just step away. So I think to answer your question, it's breaks. It's making sure that you are carving out time and space mentally, physically, emotionally, to make yourself be able to be strong enough to take on these kind of burdens for other people.
Yeah. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
It's like when they say on the airplane, put your oxygen mask on first.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right? I'm not going to help him if I can't breathe.
That's right. 100%. I agree with it. And I don't know if you love college football like I do, but I've heard college football coaches, Kirby Smart comes to mind when he says, doing the hard thing is important because if you don't do the hard thing first, the hard thing will come after you.
Yes.
If you don't take care of your health, then the hard thing will be, if you don't take care of your physical fitness, right, the hard thing will be dealing with the health issues. If you choose the hard route, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to take care of myself, then that's the hard part instead of, the health falling apart. So it's so important that you do that, and I bet your clients, though they don't know it, are grateful that you do. So what else? What do you like to do with kids? What do you like to do with the family?
We love to snow ski.
Yeah.
We enjoy that a lot.
Yeah,
I love to travel.
Okay, yeah. Where's your favorite place?
My favorite place I've traveled?
Yes,
oh,
here we
Lord.
go. Maybe a couple. You don't have to tell me.
Okay.
Give me a couple places you'd like to go.
I went and ran with the bulls in Spain.
Let's go. Like Pamplona?
Yes.
Let's go.
That's up there. I have.
Did you actually get out there and run?
Yes.
Or just watch?
No. I got out there and ran.
Sister is bad, boy.
Yeah.
I love it.
And one of the things I didn't know about that situation, I went with a big group of friends. You really shouldn't run with your friends because if we're all together and something happens to me, your hesitation is to stop and try, and you don't have that kind of time. So we all get there, and the guide's like, all right, guys, everyone go to their corners. And I'm like, oh, I'm by myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a 1,200-pound bull.
Yeah, that and this, less the bulls, the amount of people that were around me. That was even scarier. Let's see, what is another good one? I've seen the Northern Lights in Iceland.
There you go.
That's a fun one. I've gone to safari in Kenya.
Jeez.
Then I scuba dove in the Great Barrier Reef in Australia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jeez, boy, she's not kidding when she says you like to travel.
I got to take the breaks when it's this serious. We got to do both.
Like my travels to 30A every summer.
Hey, I like that place too.
No, it's
nothing
great.
wrong with that.
But when you've been there a dozen times, maybe I should branch out a little bit. I don't know.
There you go.
Just maybe.
Take a trip.
Holly, how do folks get a hold of you?
I am on all social media platforms at the Waltman Firm. Our law firm number is 770-235-1015. Someone will answer 24 hours a day. And then as soon as I'm back awake, I will take over from there. TheWaltmanFirm.com or HollyWaltman.com.
There you go. Easy. And how can folks get a hold of Second Chance Bail Bonds, Second Chance Monitoring, if they need you?
ATLbail.com and secondchancemonitoring.com.
It's easy. It is easy breezy. Holly, thank you so much for taking the time. Yeah. Your stories are so fascinating. And the information is so good. I hope people will go back if they missed any of it and get those questions that you ask the police officer when you get pulled over, or the things that you don't say to a police officer when you get pulled over. Imperative that you know this information, all from Holly here on Justice Unfiltered.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app.